Breaking news. Aaron Rodgers officially is being traded to the New York Jets.
I just want to say I'm as hungry as you guys are. I know it's been a long time since we've been in the playoffs, even longer time since we've been in the Super Bowl. But I promise you I'm as hungry as you guys are, and I'm excited to meet you all and to be a part of something special this year. So come along for the ride.
It has happened. It's Aaron fucking Rodgers Wednesday on the Jets Group Chat podcast. Welcome in, ladies and gents. It's your host, Matt Kardos, Handsome Jer, coming live at you from Florida.
Let's go.
Hey, before we do anything, cheers to a great day in the history of the New York Jets franchise. A long time coming. This is for the base that sat through fucking Bryce Petty, Greg McElroy, Josh McCown,
Tim Tebow,
Sam Darnold, Adam Gase on the sidelines, Zach Wilson on Thursday Night Football against Jacksonville last year.
We deserve this.
We deserve it. Let's enjoy. Cheers, Jets brother. Nation.
Take a step back. All Jet Nation, Jets Twitter, that was a rough, 50, 60 days that we last had? Matt could be 40 days ago saying he wants to come to the Jets.
Yeah, I think it was like 40-something days ago now. Maybe not even that. I think it was like the week of St. Patrick's Day or something like that. So, yeah, like the 15th. It's been over a month. Yeah, we're probably approaching that 40-day territory. You always had the feeling, at least I did anyway. I think you did too. And collectively as a group, I think everybody here thought that the deal was going to get done eventually. It was just a matter of when and what the compensation would be. And I'll admit the Jets ended up probably parting with a little bit more than I would have liked to, and probably a little bit more than we thought they were going to have to, considering I didn't think the Packers had very much leverage when push came to shove. But I'm so tired of the word leverage, and it breaks my brain at this point. So I'm not even going to waste any of your precious time that you're spending listening to the pod. And I'm not going to waste any more my time talking about who had more leverage. Bottom line is Packers got what they got out of the deal. I'm fine with it. We got the quarterback that we so desperately have been craving. And it's done. It happened. It's official. And man, how fucking electric was it? That post that dropped on social this morning of Rodgers walking in and cleanly dapping up everybody in the building. You could have eaten off that dap. It was so clean.
All I know is I want Lisa to look at me the way Robert Saleh looks at Aaron Rodgers. That's all I know. He was just stars in his eyes. He was just all gushy. It was weird looking at Aaron Rodgers rocking the big Jets hoodie, walking into one Jets drive. It just looked so surreal. Especially for one, take back, a couple months ago, we were like, oh, this is our pipe dream. This isn't going to happen. We're looking at Jimmy Garoppolo. We're looking at Derek Carr. Look at how far we've come and look at where we are. And I'm with you. I think we might have given up. My initial gut reaction was we gave up a little bit more than I would have liked, especially with the uncertainty around how long he's going to play for. And I think that I was put at ease a little bit today listening to him. He sounds revved up. He's
rejuvenated as fuck.
He looked like a man who this change of scenery. He is ready. This man's going to OTAs tomorrow.
Yeah,
man is
that hasn't happened in a minute.
No, but he just seemed, and he said, he goes, I'm not here for a one and done. Again, your body's a different story. His body reacts well. He's back, but he's like, I'm looking here for 1, 2, possibly 3 years. And looking at it that way, this is a no-brainer, slam dunk. I think this was a win-win on both sides. And then he took a Brady deal. He restructured his cap hit's only $1.5 million this year. Did you see that?
Well, that's his restructured deal with the Packers. Now he's on the Jets. It's restructured that way. The Jets are obviously going to restructure his deal now.
Again, right?
Because the way it's structured now, he'll make $108 million next year, and that's not going to happen. So
all signing bonus. Go ahead. Who cares?
Yeah. It's going to be reworked again. It's just a matter of what that's going to look like. But from everything that you've read and heard, and Joe Douglas has kind of alluded to, and Rodgers has kind of alluded to it today, they're working through that to see what that renegotiated deal is going to look like. But you're just kind of relieved that that's done. But I think the biggest thing for me is obviously we've known that this whole thing was going to play out whenever it was going to play out. I had a feeling it was going to get done pre-draft. Seeing as though the Packers want to surround Jordan Love with talent now, that would be the smart play. And obviously the Packers aren't some slapdick organization. I mean, for all the grief that we've been giving them and talking shit about them the last month or two, I mean, they're a smart franchise. They know what they're doing. So that was always going to be the case, that they were going to hold strong in what they wanted, and they ended up getting what they wanted. So kudos to them.
Yeah.
But my whole thing through that process was, what's Rodgers feeling about this whole thing playing out? Is it more of a scenario of like, is he coming here just to spite the Packers, or is he coming here just purely out of like, I'm going to show them what I can do? Like, was he going to walk in this morning with a shit-eating like look on his face? Was he going to be pissy? Was it going to be mopey?
Yeah.
Like, does he really want to be here? Or is it just
not want to be in Green Bay? Exactly.
Right. Like, I don't want to be in Green Bay, so I'll go to the only team that wants me. It's a paycheck. It's $60 million that I can't say no to. And I didn't get that feeling at all today. Like, I got the feeling, and he gave off the impression that like he legitimately is bought into.
I chose you. Not
Right.
like it wasn't like I'm here, like he said, here for the paycheck. He called out the right people. And again, he said the right reason. He just was like, oh, I like what they're doing here. You got your offense, defense for a good year. This is a chance to win. He was like, I played against Sal's defenses for so long. He beat us up for a while. I played against the Jets last year. They smoked us. Like he's got definitely a respect for the Jets and the Jets organization, or as of late, at least. And I think, to your point, I think he chose the Jets. I think he wants to be here. I think he looks at this, and he's no slouch either. I mean, like, he's been the generational quarterback for 18 years. He knows what a roster has looked like. He knows what a mediocre roster looks like. And he knows what a good roster looks like.
Yeah.
And I think he looks at this roster and says, I can win here. And did you catch that he said we a lot?
Oh, for sure.
He kept saying we, and that was the shit that I loved. He didn't come in and he's like, oh, I want to do this, or I'm going to win the Super Bowl. He was like, he walked in like he was a member of the Jets
for a while.
Forever.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to give us what we need, what we wanted. It's been so long for us. And it's like,
even in the breakdown interviews, like after the press conference, like he did SNY interviews and interviews with Jets.com, and he was on the Michael K show. I listened to that. He used the word we a lot, but it's almost like it's so refreshing to hear that. And it, like, I liked in the press conference when he's like, we have the longest playoff drought in sports, or like, it's been a long time since we have been to the playoffs, or it's been a long time since we have gone to the Super Bowl. Like, he's kind of embracing, like, yeah, it's been a long time for us. Like, even though he's won a Super Bowl, like, he's been to the playoffs every year, like, but now he's here and he's like, we haven't been to the play. And it was just kind of cool to see him like bring himself down to like where the Jets are, and just kind of include himself in wanting to bring them to a bigger or a higher level than of competitiveness than they've been in a really long time. And I just thought that it was really cool. I just liked the whole attitude that he brought today. He was as cool as a cucumber. And I mean, he's always a good interview. I'll give the guy that. Like, you don't have to agree with him politically or how he views the world or his ideals. Like, he's a guy that's always going to beat to his own drum and speak whatever's on his mind, whether you agree with it or not. But like, from a pure, like, just a dude standpoint, and like, he's an alpha male. Like, he's a guy that you can get behind, and he inspires confidence. And I know every Jet fan that I'm friends with, just beyond our group chat today, like, everybody that I've talked to is just so amped up and so excited after just listening to him talk, because he spoke so glowingly about being here. And one thing I've always admired about Rodgers too, and this is listening to him in many interviews in years past, not just today or his bits on the McAfee show these last couple of months, but the one thing that always comes across to me, he's so well educated in the game of football, not just like X's and O's, but like the history of the game, like players from the past. And I love today, he was talking about when he was a kid, he'd watched the VHS tapes of Super Bowl III, and he's very much in tune to like Jets history. Like, he was talking about Broadway Joe, and he knew about the fur coat and all the stuff that he did.
Either. I think it's not genuinely. That's what I'm saying. I think that's why it was such a breath of fresh air for me today. Usually the Jets always go after the high price free agent, the guy who just like takes the paycheck to come here. knows he really doesn't want to be here, bought into it. But like, it was just so, like you said, he's so well versed in the game. He's such a pro's pro. This is truly like getting one of the Mannings or the Brady's or the
Yeah.
Rodgers or the
Yeah.
Breezes. Like, you're getting like a generational, probably one of the top handful, maybe top 5 quarterbacks to ever walk the earth ever,
Mhm.
ever.
Yeah.
And he's going to be playing with us for for the foreseeable future. And he came in like he's only been in the league for like 5 years. He thanked the right people. He said the right things. Again, he didn't have that shit aching grin. He's not like, hey, I'm here so I can stick it to to them. And they kept throwing him not softballs. They kept throwing him like questions where it would have been easy sound bites that we can play over and over and over. And he didn't take the bait. He was just like, no, he's like, there's no ill will. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm thinking about right now. I'm going to practice tomorrow. He went to the team meetings today. He's just like, I'm here. I'm focused on now and I'm focused on winning. And I think I can win here. I think we can win here. Like, that was what like resonated with me. And that was such a breath of fresh air because New York sports. We've
Yeah.
been, a lot of outside the Yankees. I mean, we've been in, playoff and championship hell for the longest time. And usually we have owners and we have teams that throw money at these high priced guys just to throw money at them. And then it doesn't work out and you fizzle. Now you're 5 steps backwards. It was just so nice to finally see that like this worked out and it worked out well. And I think we got the right guy as opposed to, let's like, not saying I didn't want him, but let's say throwing money at Lamar and he's like clearly just pissed off at the Ravens. So I'm just going to take the most guaranteed money, which could have been the Jets. But like, we got somebody who's like a generational all world person on top of just a football player. And I think he's going to do wonders if he hasn't already in the 12 minutes he's been here on that locker room for those young guys.
Yeah. And I just hope Jets fans can like appreciate the magnitude of the moment given where they've come from in such a short period of time. And granted, trading for an aging quarterback doesn't guarantee anything. Like, the Jets could go out there and shit the bed next year, and that's a possibility. Like, I'm not telling you because Aaron Rodgers is here, they're going to the Super Bowl. That's the expectation now, and that's what we should expect. But just the fact that he wanted to be here, appreciate that. And it shows you the way that this franchise is viewed from the outside at this point in time, because just 2 years ago, the whole cover zero thing and Adam Gase and Greg Williams and what a shit roster that was. And the shithole roster that Joe Douglas inherited not that long ago. The fact that he knocked it out of the park with the draft last year. And we're going to get into the draft coming up. Obviously, by the time this airs, you guys are listening. The draft is tonight. We're recording this the night before the draft, but we'll get into that a little bit later after we finish touching on the big news of Rodgers finally landing here today. But just the draft class that Douglas knocked it out of the park last year. I mean, it changed the entire. I'm of the firm believer like last year's draft class is a franchise altering draft class.
Yeah.
Like, the Jets don't have Aaron Rodgers today without that draft last year.
If they didn't get an A+ and get 3 top notch, 2.5, whatever you want to call it, and then this second round top notch players and truly hit an A++ grand slam, Aaron Rodgers isn't here. And it doesn't sting as bad knowing you gave up, a 1 or you swap picks this year.
Correct.
Because you're playing with house money. You got the offensive and defensive rookie of the year. That probably would have been the other offensive rookie of the year, in the second round. Jermaine Johnson just coming along. Like, last year's draft, and again, credit where credit's due, but then again, shit where shit's due, with Denzel Mims and maybe Ashton Davis and some of those other picks, whatever. But last year changed the trajectory of where we are and put us where we are today off of just solely those 5 picks that we walked away with last year. Period. 6 picks. Period.
Yeah, and from what they say, like this year's draft class is one of the worst draft classes probably in the last 20 something years or so.
Yeah.
I was reading somewhere one of these draft guys was saying today that like if the Jets 4 big picks from last year, which was Sauce, Garrett, Jermaine Johnson, and Breece Hall, like your premium picks from the first and second, like if they were in this class, they'd all be like top 12 picks. Like
all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you're walking away with that kind of haul in one draft and they all make an impact in year one to the point where like now tomorrow, like and that's why you and I were talking a little bit before we started recording, but usually like you and I, like, we know who we want, we know where we think they're gonna go. Like I don't know more than just reading mocks, and I just started diving into like the draft like a day ago. Like I've been
Yeah.
so immersed and consumed into obtaining Aaron Rodgers that I haven't given a shit about the draft, given where they were picking, given what this class looks like, and just given where the franchise is out. But usually, like
I'm dialed in.
we cling to the draft because that's like our Super Bowl. Like
Yeah.
who are we gonna pick? How are they gonna like? Because usually when we make a draft pick, we're relying on that person to be the savior of the franchise. Who are we gonna pick? This person has to bring us from the depths of mediocrity and rescue the franchise to the point now where like we're picking at 15 now tomorrow. It's like a stopgap guy or a plug and play guy, but
Yeah.
like it's just another like a depth piece. Like we're
You,
hoping, oh, maybe we can get our third tackle on the roster, or
and you don't need
oh,
a yeah.
maybe we can get our number 3 wide receiver in the draft. Not like, oh, we need our starting corner, we
We
need
need
a
a
starting wide
cornerstone.
receiver one. Like we're not looking for that. We're looking for very much like when Brady went to the Bucks and they drafted like Tristan Wirfs. Like that was like a piece that you plug and play, and it's a huge piece that contributes right away. But like
You're
they
not
weren't
looking for you're not looking for cornerstone players. Now you're looking for players who are going to contribute in the right way. That's why having like that good of a quarterback changes so many things. Like you look at, let's say, like look at Mahomes, right? You don't need to have I need to have the number one receiver in this draft class or the number one tackle or the number one whatever because he needs to make the team better. You've got a quarterback who wherever you pick, he is going to make better.
all right.
Sky Moore isn't Sky Moore. I mean, granted, I think he was a world beater, but again, he was above average because he played with Mahomes. Right now, you're sitting here, let's say at 15. You like if you have reservations about that number one receiver, they say it's a really shitty receiver draft, but you take him because you know Rodgers is probably going to make him better.
Yeah.
Period. Same thing like with the tight end. Same thing with if you went the tackle route. Anything now you're playing with house money. You're adding to the team. You've got your cornerstone pieces, and like we said before, this is the first draft. For like I don't know who the edge rushers are. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I mean, I know who the quarterbacks are because obviously they're going so high. But like, I'm not looking at these positions going, oh shit, can you imagine if this guy fell? I'm
Right.
looking at fucking safeties and linebackers and guards.
Yeah.
I think the talk of the town for the Jets draft, like again, I'm not saying it was a slam dunk that we're getting Rodgers, but I think everyone outside of one Jets drive was like kind of sure, but like it was in our mind that we're getting him. Even the way, look at the Calais Campbell interview. He's like Aaron Rodgers is calling me saying, come to the Jets, come with me to win a
Yeah.
Super Bowl. So they knew he was coming, so that kind of put everybody at ease. But like now you're looking at the draft in another way where it's like, I don't care who you get. Just give me somebody who's going to plug and play and now make him better because I don't care who the quarterbacks are. I'm looking at all these other positions who are now going to be like added pieces who are just going to elevate this team or bring great depth to this team. Now you're playing with that house money where the sky's the limit. It could be, should be for this team. But
Right.
again, it's a different way of looking at the draft because, like you said, this used to be our Super Bowl. We did a mock draft last year. We knew the whole top 10. We knew everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. We did. That's right. I
I
couldn't do a mock draft for you now. I don't know if I know 10 players in this draft.
Yeah, and I'll mispronounce their names altogether. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like,
No
but
doubt.
it's still now you're looking how can we get the value? These are the drafts that teams should be looking forward to, and this is what the draft should be. You shouldn't be drafting guys to be, oh, I need this guy to be our savior, to be our cornerstone, to be our everything. How do I get this guy on who can contribute and make our team better, and not be our team? You know what I mean? And that's something the Jets have never done. We've always looked at the draft as like we need this guy to turn everything around. Now we're looking at it the way the Patriots used to look at it. Now we're looking at it at the way, the Packers kind of used to look at it, quasi 5, 10 years ago. We're
Yeah.
looking at it through the Steelers lens, that long ago. Having that quarterback changes so many things, and like it's just going to be so fun to watch how the rest of the offseason plays out, how the draft plays out, or even when cuts come down.
Mm-hmm.
Who they can draw and how can they do what they do. It just makes for such a different dynamic, and it's so cool to look at. I just can't fucking believe it. I can't believe that.
I know. And the season's so far away. It's so hard to be so excited now. Like, can you bottle this and like just take it out whenever you want? Like, it's definitely a day to be proud to be a Jet fan because I mean I'm always proud to be a Jet fan. I wear my fandom on my sleeve, if you will. I mean, we invest so much time and passion and emotion and money and man hours into like rooting for this team. I mean, hell, it's going on what 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night, and we're sitting here recording a podcast talking about this team. So like clearly we're invested in the success of this team, and we haven't seen very much of it, but it hasn't given us reason to walk away because we've talked about it many times, and I've said this, and I think both of us have said it even on like the Gotham City Crew pod when we went on there a couple months ago. Like, you stay and you buy into the team as a fan because like this too shall pass, and one day we will have the moments where we will feel relevancy again, and we will be competitive again, and we'll be a team to be reckoned with again, and hopefully that ends up in that Lombardi trophy that as fans we've been craving since we were born and since we started putting on green and white and just kind of starting to root for the team. It's something that's eluded us, but I mean, I feel like we're just starved for relevancy. And I mean, I think that's why earlier in the offseason when we all chatted and we weren't the only ones, there were a lot of fans that they wanted to go with the Derek Carr scenario, just to Derek Carr will win us 10 games. We'll be in the playoffs every year. Yeah, sure.
Get us in the conversation.
Yeah, like he makes them good. Like, does he take them to
he makes them better? He makes them better. Not necessarily good. We don't know that. He's
right.
Better.
He's better. He's an upgrade of what they had, but quite frankly, anybody was an upgrade over what they had. Teddy Bridgewater might be an upgrade over what they had. So like the bar wasn't that high, but people were just like, "Oh, Derek Carr's interested in us. He's out to dinner with us. We shouldn't let him leave. Like, he wants to come to the Jets. Don't let him walk out of the building." And you're like, I get it, but like the Jets were shooting higher because they understand they're in a unique position now where they have a shit ton of young, controllable assets that don't make any money right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're good right now. They're legitimately good right now. They have certainly a top 5-6 defense in the league. I don't know if you could expect them to play as well as they did last year. They gave up 18 points a game. That's absurd. Like, it might be hard to repeat that performance, but even on a good day, they give up 20 or 21, whatever, and you're in a top 6 or 7 defense. You'll take that. But you're just so good on both sides of the ball. The roster is so greatly improved that if you could bring in a guy the caliber of Rodgers, even everybody last year with a broken thumb, everybody's been shitting on Rodgers. Like, I think the guy went for 26 tutties and 12 interceptions with like
3,700 yards.
Yeah, like 3,700 yards. That'd be like an all-time Jets season. Like, he'd go in the Jets Hall of Fame for that season. And that, like, people thought he was washed off that season. I mean, is it to his standards? No, he'd admit that. We'd all admit that. But like, he did that with a broken thumb. So I think the expectation is he's going to come out and he didn't play all season last year either. He missed a couple games, if I remember. I think Love started a game or two, didn't he, last year after he hurt his finger? So that wasn't even in a full season. You got to believe he would have put up at least 30 touchdowns. He would have thrown for 4,000 yards, just like he did his entire career. And I fully expect he's able to still do that. The guy was back-to-back MVP just 2 years ago. So
2 years ago. A year ago.
I mean, yeah. At this time, when we came into the season last year, Aaron Rodgers was the reigning MVP of the National Football League. So if the Jets couldn't have pulled this trade off a year ago, they wouldn't have gotten the MVP of the NFL a year ago. They probably benefited by him having that kind of down year for his standards, because they probably don't get him if he doesn't have that season that he had last year. But it just puts, as a fan, it puts them into the conversation. And it's just so weird now to like turn on sports talk radio or turn on ESPN or the NFL network or just local SNY or any of these channels. And all the chatters about like Jets are Super Bowl contenders. Like, where do they rank in the AFC? Where do they rank in Super Bowl contenders? And like, to hear the Jets just in that conversation is just so refreshing as a fan, because we haven't made the playoffs in over a decade. Yep. Like we were only a couple of years removed from high school the last time the Jets were in the playoffs. And now here we are. You have 2 kids. I'm married. Like,
Jesus Christ.
just think of how much life has changed for everybody since the last time the Jets
And that's why I say Jets fandom, Jets Nation, we deserve this. And the long-standing fans, the long-suffering fans who sat through the blistering cold at MetLife, that sat through the blistering cold at the Meadowlands, who said, showed up when most other fans of other teams wouldn't because their team sucked, showing up just what, a 4-12 team, didn't care. Jets fans are the best fans in the world. I truly believe it. We're toxic as fuck. We're crazy as fuck, but we're the best fans in the world, and we deserve this. Take a step back, take a breath. Let's get ready for the season. Let's make sure we temper expectations, feel right, but again, like, enjoy it, embrace it. We are here. We've got our man. We got Rodgers. I think finally this feels right. We got the right guy. This feels different. We said it a bunch of times when we drafted, Sauce, when we drafted Garrett Wilson, and the tides were turning, a little bit before the end of last year, or the end of last year, and a little bit before the beginning of last season. It just feels different. All of it does. And I think, as a team 3-4 years ago, you don't get a Rodgers. You don't take a second look at us. And I think that's a testament to, even though Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh might not have on paper the stats that everybody wants, and people still clamor at it, but I think all this new trajectory, all this, change of the guard is due to those two people, 100%.
Yeah, and I think I can't emphasize it enough. Just enjoy the ride, because you have to understand it. As exciting as this is, it's not going to last very long. Even if win a Super Bowl, we win, like, this is going to come to an end in 2 years, 3. Like, this isn't a long-term thing. So as excited as we are, fucking enjoy every day of it. Enjoy every minute of it. Like, Aaron Rodgers picked you. He's here. It's day one. Like, ride that wave for as long as we can, and just enjoy this, because the hope is the Jets have this young core, this young nucleus, and this much improved roster that has made them so attractive. The hope is Rodgers comes here, balls the fuck out, wins a Super Bowl, retires in a year or two. When he retires, it's still a really good fucking roster. Who knows who a free agent is then, or who knows where you're picking in the, like,
or who knows how he fixed Zach Wilson. Like, anything can happen. Like, best case scenario,
that's a
Zach
possibility
Wilson
too.
sits back and something changes. Again, he was still young, and it takes quarterbacks how long to develop? Honestly, there's the big name guys who can come in and do this right out of the gate. Mahomes set the beginning of his career. You know what I mean? Like, there's not, everyone looks at, like, that's what the one thing about, like, the new wave of players, like, everybody looks at, like, everyone's got to be a Joe Burrow, everyone's got to be a Trevor Lawrence, like, but even Trevor Lawrence wasn't that great coming right out. These quarterbacks take time. These players take time, let alone these quarterbacks. Rodgers sat for how many years behind Brett Favre? You know what I mean? Like, and we know that Zach Wilson has talent. His head wasn't there. He's got the intangibles. He can do good things. Granted, he was constrained by the system, but that's probably just because of his own doing. But imagine now where he can truly sit back and know, I don't have to do anything. I can truly sit and learn. I can do nothing but, like, just soak up everything that Rodgers brings to the table. Be that sponge, or at least change the rhetoric that was before.
Right.
Best case scenario, Rodgers retires, Wilson's ready, comes out and balls out because now he's there mentally. It could happen. So I'm excited for the future, but I think, again, that's a testament to who Rodgers is off the field as well. And granted, he's a baller, between the sideline to sideline, but what he brings to the game, what he brings to the people around him, let alone your backup quarterback who's a young kid trying to learn, that's, like, immeasurable to me.
Right. And that the Zach Wilson factor also brings me back to, like, the point that I made earlier, and how franchise altering last year's draft class is, because I think the Jets knew Zach Wilson after year one. I think they knew Zach Wilson had some shortcomings and that they needed to work with him. He was very much, he was not a plug and play guy. You're going to have to take your lumps with him, and you're going to have to live with the good and the bad as it comes to Zach Wilson. But I think as last year went on and it became apparent that draft class made such an impact immediately, that the team went from, like, oh, we'll just roll with Zach Wilson and whatever happens is going to happen, to, oh fuck, like, we might be ready to win now.
Yeah, we expect them to come along that fast.
Yeah, we can't in good conscience, with, I guess, with keeping in mind keeping the locker room together, We can't keep parading out this mediocrity because these guys are young, they're hungry. They've never lost, like some of them probably lost 1 or 2 games their entire life. Like how many games at Ohio State did Garrett Wilson lose? How many games at Iowa State did Brace Hall lose or Sauce? Like those guys probably lost 4 or 5 games their entire career from high school all the way through college. So when you come into a losing situation and you're losing mostly based on the deficiencies of one player, it becomes frustrating. And that's where we saw the Elijah Moore trade demand and the Denzel Mims trade demand. We're all like, at the time, we're all like, what the fuck's going on? Why are they doing this? Little did we know how bad it was, not only behind the scenes, but it became apparent as the season went on that like Zach Wilson just isn't progressing. He's going backwards. But I think if Zach Wilson's out there and he has a cast like Sam Darnold had, where he's throwing a Deontay Burnett and Javion Curse and guys like that, you live with that. You take your 2-15 season and you go out and you keep building the roster. But when you start 5-2 and you're winning in spite of the quarterback, it only gets worse as the year goes on. And I think it became apparent. We talked about it ad nauseum last winter as the weeks were going on and they started to go backwards in that second half of the season. They were losing mostly because of the performance of Wilson. Until I remember we had Mike Westhoff on that week and he kind of laid into the Zach Wilson attitude and having to whip himself into shape and all that stuff. But it became apparent that they had to make a change and they brought in Mike White. Mike White, a world beater? No, but like he was the best option that they had at the time. Yeah. I mean, he was competent. He was better than Zach Wilson. And so they had to make the change, but that saved the locker room. Like if they don't make that change, who knows where they're at right now. It was the right move. And you just, because of the impact that the rookie class made last year, it changed the bar or it changed the timeline for Zach Wilson to develop. They needed Zach Wilson to take the step last year. And quite frankly, he had to take the step last year, whether they were good or not. You had to see something from him to know going into year 3, this is the guy I'm going to build around. And he didn't prove that. He proved the opposite, that like, oh, we don't know that we believe in this kid anymore. And we might've made a mistake. And so kudos to the Jets for making the change at the time. And kudos to the Jets for realizing that they have a ready-made roster that, are they Super Bowl contenders? That'll be determined, but they're definitely in that conversation of the probably 7 or 8 teams that could realistically win the Super Bowl next year. They're on that list. And a year ago, we probably couldn't say that. So after this trade, they're in that conversation. They're probably a top 7 or 8 team to win the Super Bowl. I think that's a reasonable statement to make.
You could arguably say they're probably top 5 team in the AFC. And if you put the Jets in the NFC, I say they're the team to beat. Period. I think it's just you still have murderers row and quarterbacks on, in the AFC. You still got Justin Herbert. You still have Patrick Mahomes. You still got Joe Burrow. Lamar Jackson, maybe. You still got Josh Allen. You still have all these guys. But I think, but again, you don't need to be number 1. Just get a seat at the table and see what your team can do, see what these young guys can do, and see how they gravitate to Rodgers. That's all you could ask for, and that's all I'm looking for.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. It's just exciting to be in the conversation, and there's going to be an exciting summer. I'm sure training camp is going to be electric, and obviously the Jets are playing in the Hall of Fame game. I'm going to be going out there. Are you going out there?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be out in Canton for the Hall of Fame game. I obviously don't expect you'll probably see a lot of Zach Wilson in that game, but Rodgers will show up in a t-shirt, but no way he's playing in that game. But we'll obviously be there, and obviously the Revis and Klecko induction a couple days later. But just a lot of excitement heading into the summer as we get in here to May. So it's definitely a nice change for this fan base, to where usually this time of the year it's like, oh, who are we gonna take? What can we do to screw this draft up? Are we going to pass on the guy we all want for the guy we never heard of? And at this time of the year, we're really not in that mode. But that kind of brings us to tomorrow, I guess, the draft. Obviously, the Jets swap picks with the Packers as part of the trade compensation for Rodgers. So it's not a huge jump. I mean, they go backwards 2 spots from 13 to 15. One thing I find interesting about it, though, in going back those 2 spots, they're now sandwiched in between New England or on the back end of New England.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of let the Packers go ahead, and now any player that the Jets could potentially covet at 15, they have to worry about the fucking Patriots sniping them for them. So I don't really love that dynamic, especially when, again, I don't know a ton about this draft class. My knowledge of it and my study and all that is very weak this year, admittedly so. But from what you hear, there's 4 really big or premier upper echelon offensive linemen in this draft. And you'd hope, I mean, it's the kid from Northwestern, Peter Skoronsky, I think is his name. And then you have the tackle from Georgia, Broderick Jones, the tackle from Tennessee, Darnell Wright.
Right. Yeah.
And then the kid from Ohio State, I think is Paris Johnson. And those are the 4 big guys. And all the mocks you saw kind of going into this spring and the weeks leading up to this week a lot of them have had the Jets going Paris Johnson at 13.
I don't even think he's going to make it 13, to be honest.
It doesn't feel like that the way the way the smoke is kind of blowing right now. It feels like this kid's going to end up in the top 10 somewhere. Same
might
for
go 3 to Arizona, they're saying.
Oh,
if they
really?
stay put and they don't trade back, they can look at him. And this is all, again, depending even if we go tackle. This is what makes it exciting. We're not married to a position. We could use. We don't need, somebody across the board. Because you think, hey,
I don't think they're going tackle at 15. I think they're all going to be gone.
I think most should be gone. And this is what we talked about earlier, and I don't think this will happen, but again, this is what's great about having a draft class in the last 2 years, that you have versatility. If you move Elijah Vera Tucker to one of the tackle spots, move him to the outside, that opens up a lot of doors for the Jets' flexibility for draft this year. And again, granted, he might make more money as a tackle. AVT is great, but again, he's a mauler at the inside. But, you got a little bit of a logjam. And right now, when you're in a win now mentality, I don't know if drafting a tackle who could be your number 3 tackle and then hoping maybe if somebody gets hurt, he plays. Like, I don't think that's the dynamic. I think, they could go wide receiver. I think they could go linebacker. I think they should trade back. They can go safety. They can go, dude, I don't think D-line is off the table. I think, whether it's the kid from Pitt or one of the kids from Clemson, I think there's a lot of flexibility here and there's a lot of different routes they can take. And I think the way the Jets have kept everything so close to the chest, everything you hear from anybody is bullshit. No one knows anything.
Yeah, I agree.
The beat doesn't even break signings in the offseason for the Jets.
Yeah, I agree.
No one knows anything.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going offensive line if one of those 4 guys are there. But if they're not there, I think they'd love to go wide receiver. I think they definitely covet a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
All the smoke today, there's a ton of smoke around Jackson Smith. And don't ask me to pronounce the last name. I'll butcher it.
Yeah.
Just call him JSN.
JSN. Which tells me he ain't going. Which tells me that's the last pick they're going to take. You know what I mean? It might be Zay Flowers. That kid from Boston College. Perfect slot. I mean, that's the beauty of where we stand right now. It's like you.
The thing is, though, like ordinarily, I'd want to trade back, but like this draft class sucks.
It's tough to.
Everybody wants to trade back in this draft class. That's the thing. Like nobody wants to trade up. Everybody wants to trade back in this draft because it's so mediocre with overall value and talent. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, the Jets are all the fuck in right now. So like they're not trading back to get 4 or 5 more picks and draft 5 or 6 guys. Like you said, they don't care about drafting guard number 5 or running back 5 in round 2. Like,
they trade back to recuperate a first round next year. That's the only really thing that makes positive sense. Or you're getting multiple twos where they like a lot of guys that they can plug and play. Like, you can get, that center everybody loves and have them develop for next year. You can get, Josh Downs from UNC, not first round receiver, but a playmaker.
Yeah.
So it all depends on how their draft board looks like. But we'd love to trade back. I don't think it happens. I think honestly, unless you can net a first round next year, just stay put and just take best player available. Period. Both that and at 43.
I don't know if this draft class is as bad as they're saying. Like, fucking trade up and go get JSN. If he's the best wide receiver in the class, you wanted Odell Beckham, you swung and missed. You still
jump the Packers. So
this is
get screwed again.
This is my kind of realm of thinking. All the smoke today is JSN Jets. They've done heavy homework on him. They covet him. Everybody's talking they go linemen, but conceivably if linemen are gone, I don't know that JSN's there at 15. It doesn't sound like he's going to be. Like, he's going to go before 15.
Yeah.
But if you want him, go get him. Like, who are you taking in the second? Like, they want an effective wide receiver. He's young. He played with Garrett Wilson on the other side in college. They're familiar with each other. Rodgers makes everybody better. It's another weapon for Aaron Rodgers. But on the same end, it also allows you to cut Corey Davis, and it opens another $10 million in cap space because right now Corey Davis is there, and like, he's a guy, he's fine, but like, where does he really realistically like fit into this whole thing?
He's the same player as Allen Lazard, a big body blocking possession receiver.
Correct, and you've already brought in Nicole Hardman, who's going to be on the field a lot and can do it all, whether it's in the backfield or he's kind of a do it all. Kind of Swiss Army knife guy, but I mean, he's going to be on the field a lot. So, I mean, if you're talking about, you could parade Garrett Wilson out there, he's there long term. Allen Lazard just signed a deal. He'll be here for the immediate term. And then you could have JSN for pretty much as long as you're going to have Garrett Wilson. And then Nicole Hardman. I mean, that's athleticism, it's speed, it's youth.
Yards after catch, it's a lot of things.
And other than Lazard, they're all on very low dollar deals, and you're going to have both of them for a really long period of time. And he's the best wide receiver in the draft. If you could, I don't know, you'd probably have to package that second round pick with your number 15 to jump up to wherever you're going to have to jump up. But like you said, what are the Jets taking in the second round? A center to compete with McGovern. And what a home run. We're all like, oh my God. We're all like, oh, McGovern's back, whatever. Like, the dude made $9 million. The dude made $9 million last year. He's been statistically like a top 12 center the last 2 years in the NFL. He was ranked last year number 10 overall as the number 10 center in the NFL. He's coming back for like less than $2 million. That's like backup money. So
starting top 10 center.
And that's your starting center. I mean, is he a great center? No, but like, he was the least of the problems on the offensive line last year. I mean, he played the whole year. He didn't get hurt. He's reliable. He's fine. If you're telling me you still want to sign Ben Jones and bring him into camp and compete together, or use McGovern as depth, whatever, or you want to draft a kid in the second round, have him sit or compete with McGovern. The thing is, like, you could bring McGovern into camp, and if he sucks, you cut him. It's no love lost there.
He's like a $600,000 captain.
Yeah, there's no harm, no foul in doing that. So, but another home run bring back by Joe D on that one. But I don't know. It just seems like in the last, like, I was all in on like, oh, Paris Johnson, but now that it seems like the kids Skoronski and Paris Johnson, those are the two that I really want. Like, if they're there, it's a no brainer. You go there.
They say Skoronski's going to be a better guard up at the NFL. They're going to slide him inside. He's like, he's like an ABT. He's the best athlete, but he's not going to play tackle in the NFL.
Which is fine. Like, they don't necessarily. I don't think the Jets necessarily need a tackle. They take the best offensive lineman and he'll play.
And
like,
figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. You take the best available player.
Yeah, but fucking trade Becton. Anything can happen.
You could. I mean, who knows? Like, Becton's coming off surgery. Dwayne Brown's coming off off-season surgery. He's 100 years old. Right. So, like, you can't back yourself into a corner like you did last year, and you go into camp relying on Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton, and then both of them don't play either the entire season or more than half the season. You can't do that again.
Yeah, Max Mitchell's a second-year guy who missed a good chunk of last year.
Who just had like a heart procedure. He had like something wrong with his heart or something like that. So
ABT coming off a season and injury. I think, like, as much as like on paper we have a high-priced offensive line, I still think it doesn't have to be. And again, it doesn't have to be at 15. This still could be 43. This could be somebody you bring in off the streets. There's a lot of still good, offensive linemen, out that haven't signed yet. I still think there's a couple pieces you need to add to that offensive line to shore it up. Because again, the last thing you want to do is parade your nice shiny Aaron Rodgers quarterback out there.
Gets crushed.
And have a subpar offensive line, whether it's due to injuries or due to whatever. You got to have some assurances. So I'm not saying it's got to be a first round, got to be second round, or it doesn't even have to be in the draft. They could
right.
Sign one or two players. I definitely think there is still going to be some work that's going to be done on this offensive line before the season over next year.
Yeah, I think all things equal, the Jets would love to take one of those 4 offensive linemen if they're there. Yeah. I think that's the route that they go. But I think if they see they're sitting there at 15 and pick like 8 or 9 is rolling around, and 2 or 3 of those guys are gone already, I think you start to think about
take a shot.
Maybe I got to move up. Like if I want this JSN dude, or maybe they go tight end at 15, like. That wouldn't be the worst thing either. Like Uzoma's not signed long term. I think they were both 2-year deals. Like I think they're both done after this year. You could probably get it. Although they just restructured Uzoma, he's can't really move off of him. I don't know. I would just go with the weapon. Like,
and just do something for Rodgers that the Packers have never done for him.
Yeah, just keep adding dynamic players, man, and keep improving the roster. That's all I'd say. Yeah. But at this point, they're all in. So like, go with the most all in move you can do. Like, would you rather wide receiver 1 or offensive lineman 7? Like, give me wide receiver 1.
Exactly.
Are you gonna, if you have to trade up to go get wide receiver 1, but you lose pick 43? What are you gonna pick with pick 43? Linebacker 9. Offensive lineman 11, cornerback 8. Like, what are you taking there?
Exactly. So you got to look at it all again. It all depends on the Jets draft. The Jets draft board. I mean, they could hate 2 of the 4 offensive linemen, or like you said, they're in their minds. They feel good. They're not even looking at offensive line, or they're not even looking at offense. We're strictly looking to shore up the defense. We need more defensive linemen. We might want Branch, the versatile safety, Swiss Army knife on the defense. As you have Nicole Hardman on the offense. So, I mean,
yeah,
this is weird because they could do anything. And again, you could package somebody where they say, "Oh, you're going to get a tight end. You're going to move up to get a tight end." All right, well then you package Conklin or Zuma, or you're going to get a receiver. You package Corey Davis. There's a lot of things they can do. And the way this team's been structured, they have the luxury and the versatility to do so because of well placed draft picks and well paced. And kind of strategically picked off-season, pickups. But I don't know. I mean, I think he said, to your point, I think they would love a lineman. I mean, again, you could also take that kid from Florida, Osiris Torrance. He's the best head and shoulders guard above everybody else.
Yeah.
Take him. And now you're shore up because you're not sure on Tomlinson. He's only here for another year, too. Everyone's here on 1 or 2 year deals.
Yeah.
That's been Joe Douglas's MO for the last, couple of years.
Well, that's the thing too. I don't think people realize like the Jets are like middling with cap space right now. Like they're gonna figure it out. Like Rodgers is there. I think JFM restructured tonight.
I'm not worried about any of that shit.
No, I don't worry about it. I mean, like we always say, the cap's pretty much fake in the NFL. Like if you want something done in the NFL, you figure out how to get it done. You just kick the can down the road with money and you figure it out. But I don't think people realize like the Jets have one. I don't remember what the number is exactly, and obviously it's going to change with the Rodgers, whatever that deal is going to look like next year. But the Jets are one of the top like 4 or 5 teams with cap space next year. Like the Jets have like $50 or $60 million in open cap next year. So
and next year's free agent class and the draft is a lot better than this year was.
Right. So there's definitely going to be room to supplement this year, but of course you're going to have to pay Quinnen Williams, and that's where that comes in, is like preserving the cap, and you're probably going to want to structure Quinnen Williams' contract where he doesn't make a lot this year, and all his big dollar years come in future years. So when he's a bigger cap hit, it's next year when you have a lot more cap room. And then it's obviously all going to come to a head and kind of even out when Sauce and Garrett and those guys come up for deals in 3 or 4 years from now.
Yeah.
But I think the goal would be ideally, because they have interest in a wide receiver. I mean, they nearly got Beckham. If the money was right, he would be here right now. obviously the Ravens went a little nuts and they paid him what they paid him.
A lot.
But
18 million.
but the fact that the Jets were willing to give him like $10 or $11 million just shows you like they want another wide receiver, and they would have pivoted off of Corey Davis had they gotten Beckham. So like I don't think Corey Davis is entrenched in this roster as like Joe Douglas makes it sound when he talks about him in these press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're telling me that the Jets have the opportunity to draft JSN and then simultaneously open up $10 additional million in cap to get a Quinn and Williams deal done, or to make this Rodgers thing more flexible, like you do it. I mean, at this point, Corey Davis is a nice player. He served his role. He came here when you drafted Zach Wilson and they didn't have any weapons. You were coming off, if you remember, like that offseason, that was like the whole failure on Darnold, and they admitted they didn't surround him with talent, and he was the best wide receiver available at the time. And so they gave him what is now a probably under market deal. I mean, that Christian Kirk, I mean, kudos to Christian Kirk. He blew the fuck up last year and he earned that contract, but that fucked the whole wide receiver market up last year.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And so like Corey Davis is underpaid probably compared to like what he'd get on the open market if he was a free agent now.
Everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. What does he get? 10 this year? He probably get 10. Like 13 or 14 on the open market at minimum. So, I mean, he's on a reasonable deal, which is why I think, especially at this point in the offseason too, there's nobody left on the free agent market. So like if you're a team that didn't really get that and missed on a wide receiver in free agency and you're looking for one right now, like Corey Davis isn't a bad 1 year. I'll pay him $10 million. Yeah. He could be my wide receiver too for $10 million if you're some middling team that needs a wide receiver.
And like, and he stays healthy. He's a serviceable number two. Again, he's not a number one. He's not like a big body, all world beater. But again, if he stays healthy, he's good. Granted, he's got to shore his hands up a little bit, but he was a safety blanket for Wilson for a long time. When he was on the field, he's not a bad player. Again, and that's what, having a roster where it is now, we're so used to thinking like, oh, well, this guy, we have like nostalgia, we don't want him going anywhere for whatever reason. Now it's like you're getting forced out of the room for better players. It's not like we're using it because you're a cap casualty or
right.
Like, oh man, you're making too much money. Here it's like, hey, now there's where Corey Davis was, let's say 5 years ago.
Corey Davis was wide receiver one.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then
going into last year, Corey Davis was wide receiver one.
Now he's wide receiver.
Or no, maybe 5. 2. You probably considered Elijah Moore wide receiver one last year, but like he was de facto like just a spotty play. Like he's a wide receiver 1A for this team going into last year. Obviously now Garrett Wilson blowing up. He's a bona fide number one. Bringing in Lazard, I mean, he's probably a little bit better than Corey Davis, I think personally, but like they're fairly even players. I mean, so if you're, and so from what it sounds like in the intro press conference from McCole Hardman, like it sounds like the Jets have kind of given him assurances like he's going to have a more active role in the passing game, like as a true wide receiver. And so like I think that was a big reason why he came here, given that we anticipated Rodgers being here, but I think he also anticipates having more snaps lining up at wide receiver. And so
good. And he's good. He's young.
He's good. He's fast. Yeah. He missed a lot of time last year, but I mean, he's a good player, and you love to see if they could unlock something that hasn't been unlocked previously, just given the reps and the role. But we'll see how that plays out. But it just feels like Corey Davis is a luxury at this point that I don't think they need. If they could allocate $10 million to help them somewhere else, whether it's a Quinn and Williams extension, a Rodgers contract, or whatever else you're going to have to do, if you could simultaneously draft his replacement, and he's not only is he going to be a better player, he's going to cost you no money. I think it's a no-brainer move, and it also improves the offense. Yeah. But like you said, it's funny, like last year, like just the mindset changes to where like you get married to mediocre players. Like Braxton Berrios is like a perfect example. Like
exactly.
Like, oh, we got to re-sign Berrios. He's Zach Wilson's boy. He's a Pro Bowl returner. Like they gave him like $8 million. Like they gave him like wide receiver like 2
4 or 5 money.
Like yeah, like, and I mean he's not that guy, and he wasn't. I mean he lost them a game in Minnesota this year, one of the biggest games of the year. I mean lining up, he's not a good receiver, and They upgraded that spot.
But he was for what we're
where we
looking
were.
for, where we were.
Correct.
Because again, look at when you said Jevion Curse was like our number one. Again, you had, you know, with
Yeah,
so many
fucking Jermaine
always,
Curse and Deontay
exactly.
Burnett and
That's it, Deontay. That's what I was thinking of. Deontay
Robbie
Burnett.
Anderson and oh my
But like
god.
you got these guys who like you were thinking like, oh, they're so good because they were coveted free agents because they come and save our receiver room. Now they're getting like forced out the door. Now thinking of it more, like think of McCole Hardman, right? You were like, oh, and people will probably scoff at him, like, oh, you're gonna give him an extended role. Who knows what he can do? He could have been receiver whatever. He was still option 3, if that 3 or 4 for the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Because you figure Mahomes is doing whatever he's doing, which is great. You had Tyreek Hill, who's your bona fide 1A, then 1A to Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
And then they drafted Valdez Scantling. Like I'm not saying he never got a fair shake, but like he produced when he got the ball in his hands.
Absolutely.
Now you're giving him, like you said, an expanded role and say, you're going to be our gadget guy. You're going to be our starting slot receiver. You're going to play, 60% of the snaps on offense. I mean, I think that was one of the most underrated, pickups of this offseason. I was hoping we'd get him, and he came out of nowhere on a random Thursday. And
yeah, I mean, I think he's capable of putting up similar production to Elijah Moore. I mean, Elijah Moore is a better player, I think, but I think for being able to get the second round pick and trading Moore, he's a perfect, like, I'll replace Moore with him
compliment to it. Yeah.
Right. Like
if they got nobody, I would be nervous. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, we're in a weird spot right now.
Right.
But
because at that point you'd have Garrett Wilson, Lazard, and Corey Davis. And now you're talking about like Mims as your 4 and like yeah.
Yeah, no.
Not so sure Mims is on this team come opening day. Just given
you've got me talk myself into they're taking a receiver at one of the top 2 picks they take this year.
I think they're gonna.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think they're going all in, and I think they're going to show Rodgers how they're all in and say, we're going to do something for you that the Packers never did in the last 10 years. We're going to pick your weapons.
Ideally, I think it's a lineman, but I don't think they're going to read. Like, I don't think they're going lineman 7 at 15 if like wide receiver 2 is there. Like, I think they go wide receiver 2 over like lineman 5 or 6 if at 15 if they're there. But it's all going to depend too where these quarterbacks go. Like, it sounds like Bryce Young is going to go 1.
Should go 1. Then
Stroud maybe 4, but I mean he could go earlier. Like he could go 2 to Houston if they go quarterback. Arizona maybe trades out and somebody jumps ahead of it. Like it's just so unpredictable. Where's Levis go? Where's Anthony Richardson go?
But it's good to have those quarterbacks go up there because it's going to push a lot of good talent down the board, I think. I felt good at 13. I feel at 15 because again, like you said, you're sandwiched after now the Packers. But I think the Patriots. But I think the Patriots need an edge rusher. They need D lineman bad, and I think what they need doesn't really align with what we're looking for outside of receiver.
Yeah,
and possibly quarterback. But like I said, it's a whirlwind. We don't know, and there's a lot of things. They're talking C.J. Stroud could fall out of the top 10. Then you got Jalen Carter. You don't know. What draft board did he fall off of?
Yeah.
He might fall to 15. And again, not saying the Jets are going to, run to the podium to take him, but
you're going to have Bijan Robinson, the running back. I mean, he looks like a top 15 pick somewhere. So, I mean, ideally you have 4 linemen. You have what is it? Young, Stroud, Levis, Richardson.
Four quarterbacks.
4 linemen, 4 quarterbacks.
That's 8. Yeah.
JSN, the receiver, 9.
Carter's going to go up there.
Carter,
Nolan Smith will
10.
probably go up there.
Nolan Smith, Will Anderson, the edge rusher.
There's 2 corners.
Yeah, the 2 corners. Tyree Wilson, the other edge from Texas Tech.
And that kid from Iowa.
And then you have Witherspoon, the corner. Christian Gonzalez, the corner from Oregon. Nolan Smith from Georgia.
15. There'll be a good player at 15. Regardless of who it could be, there will be somebody there. And I think Broderick Jones falls to 15.
He's the one I want the least from. I know, but it seems like he's mostly a project like right now. Like, but maybe that's good. Like like you said, if you don't have the snaps for him right away, like maybe it's not the worst thing to like have him rotate in or work in camp with these vets. But that's the thing. Like, are you taking the project at 15 and hoping he develops in a year or two, or like you taking the guy that's going to help you right now? And that's what I mean. I guess that's Joe Douglas's job to figure out. Is like
all else fails, take Brian Branch from Alabama.
Yeah,
versatile safety. Why not?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fascinating. I'm looking forward to hopping back on again next week and just kind of seeing how all the chips fell over the weekend. And we will certainly be back next week to kind of break down it all, see how the chips fell, see if there's any more cap casualties or cuts from the Jets. There could be some of those coming up here soon as they still try to get this Rodgers contract reworked and get this Quinn and Williams deal kind of wrapped before training camp gets underway here in another month or whatever that's going to be. So with that, we're going to wrap it. Spiga, any predictions going to your head? Who's the pick tomorrow?
You're talking me into JSN, to be honest with you.
Well, the thing is, I don't know that Jason's going to be there. Like, I think they might have to move to get him, and I don't know that. Like, I'd do it, but like I don't like Joe D ain't that. No. Like, he's not a gambler like that. It doesn't seem.
I say one of the tackles falls. I say Broderick Jones is there, and they take him.
Yeah, I have a feeling one of them is going to be there because I think the quarterbacks are going to fall. I have a feeling Levis and potentially Richardson fall out of the top 10.
They might fall out of the top 15. They could be there when we pick.
Yeah, that'd be nice if they're there and somebody wants to trade in to go get one of those. I'd potentially, like you said, I don't know that I love trading back in this draft, but if I could get a 1 next year and recoup move back, get a 1 next year, and you give me like another 2 this year or something like that, like I'd be interested in that probably. But
this draft is definitely middle heavy. It's not top heavy. Like there's no studs up top.
Yeah, I have a feeling if one's there, I'm on the same page with you. I think it's going to be Broderick Jones or Darnell Wright from Tennessee.
Do you think outside of, let's say, past the Jets pick, do you think there's any like blockbuster fireworks like there were last year? Like, do you think Lamar Jackson gets traded?
No, I have a feeling Hopkins is going to move
tomorrow,
either during the draft or before the draft. I have a feeling that he's going to move. I don't know why, but you've heard a lot of chatter about that in the last 24 hours. I've heard a couple of these draft podcasts and stuff that I've listened to just to kind of get acquainted, and a lot of them think there's going to be a lot of trades because a lot of people want to move back, and if some of these guys are falling, there's going to be some movement, and so who knows what kind of guys move in those deals. I mean, nobody expected the AJ Brown trade last year, and that came out of nowhere. Nobody expected the Hollywood Brown trade, and that came out of nowhere. So, I mean, there's
something, but I don't know who.
Yeah, and that's what makes it fucking must-see TV, baby.
Yeah, a good 7 hours of
NFL's the best soap opera in the world.
Damn right. What time does that start tomorrow?
8 o'clock. 8:30? Yeah, of course it starts at 8 by the time they go on the clock and make the pick.
11:30.
Yeah, the first pick ain't going to come in until like quarter after, and we'll go from there.
But what's fun to watch, though? It's cool, like background noise.
Yeah, it's must-see TV for sure.
When I'm feeding the baby, I can just have it on. Continuous loop.
All right, well, with that's going to wrap this historic Aaron Rodgers Wednesday for Kardos and Spiga. Jets Group Chat Pod. It was good to get back at this. And again, we'll be back next week to kind of recap the draft and apologize for the hiatus. You don't see the jerseys in the background. I've relocated temporarily for a while. Spiga, congratulations on the arrival of the new baby.
Baby Jack.
Cheers to that. A lot of life changes in the last couple months, but I think we're back in business. Wi-Fi is set up here, so we're ready to boogie for the rest of the offseason. And like I said, we'll be back next week. Recap who the Jets ended up with potentially at 15. Did they move out of 15? Did they stay at 15? Fascinating shit.
Can finally rest.
With that, Aaron Rodgers is a Jet, and that's all that matters.
Damn right, baby.
All right, Spiga, you take it easy. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, Spotify, Apple Pods, YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, the Gram. Tell all your friends. And until then, we'll see you next week. Jet up, baby.
Jet up, baby. Let's go.